Alrighty, here we go. It's mid-July 2024, and my name is Travis Neville. This is the Travis Neville Podcast. I know it's been a while since I've recorded. I've had a lot of stuff going on. That's just really an excuse. I frankly haven't been inspired to record anything. But, life hands you out things, and eventually you bring back inspiration. You come up with things that would be helpful. Before I forget, this is my new book. It is called Ideal Man Mastering Masculinity. The idea is the last one, Ideal Man Reviving Masculinity, is a set of habits essentially designed for the young man, or really a man of any age, who wants to make sure he's got the right habits going in his life for optimum success, specifically as an American man today. And then this new book, which released, I think in April, maybe May, I think it was May of 24, is outcomes. In other words, if you're practicing those habits well in your life, they should lead to these outcomes. So this book specifically, going through and talking about what should be in your life roughly by midlife. So I keep talking about like your 40s, which is, where I am. And here's where you should be. These are the things that you should have going on. These are the sort of rewards and positives you should be enjoying as a result of practicing the habits and reviving masculinity. Real proud of this one. I'm proud of all of them, but it's my third one, so you get better as you go. At least you better if you're paying attention, and it's a solid book. I was sitting at, and if you've been following my Instagram page, I was sitting at this, and I'll talk more about this later. But I'm sitting at a diner in the middle of I don't know where, northern Wisconsin somewhere. And this older gentleman sits down next to me. We have a nice conversation about life, about, where I was in my life, where he was in his life at the time, and just a really nice interaction. And I happened to have had a copy of this on me. So I signed it and gave it to him, which might be like tantamount to, I always wonder when I do that, if I look like the douchebag who gives his parents a picture of himself for Christmas or something, like something totally self-serving. But I just really believe that it's full of good stuff. It's put a lot of work and time and thinking into this pursuit that I've been on here for the last 4 years or more. And, I want to share it if I can. I did all this work, but maybe you don't have to. And this gentleman, he's in his 70s. He's a Vietnam veteran. He undoubtedly has a more developed, more evolved outlook on the world. So, my guess is that he would read it and probably was thinking the whole time, well, yeah, I remember thinking like that when I was 40 something. Maybe, I don't know. Hopefully it did some good for him. Who knows? Anyway, yeah, I'm real proud of it. And so anybody who asks, I just give them one. If you reach out on Instagram or someplace else where you see me, I'll pretty much say, hey, just DM me an address. I'll send you a copy. I believe in the work. I believe that I'm doing things to help people. That's the whole point. That's what you're supposed to be doing, right? We're supposed to be helping our fellow man. So today I want to talk specifically about loss. That's a thing that, has been prominent in my life for the last week and a half or so. A little bit longer than that, probably a couple weeks. I lost my cat. He showed up a few times in earlier podcasts. He'd jump up and you'd see him behind me. Gray and white cat named Hank. I'd had him in my life for 15 years, a little bit more than 15 years, actually. And I guessed his age to be 16 just based on pictures I saw of him from when I first found him, he was a stray, to that's kind of how he looked the year after that. So I was just kind of guessing, all right, well, he wasn't fully mature at that point. And so I'm guessing he's 16, but that's minimum. He could be 17 or even 18, but that's a good long run, especially for a stray cat. You know, he showed up in my yard when I bought the house that I owned in Kendallville, Indiana in 2009. That's when he showed up. Uh, and he'd been with me the whole time. You know, I moved all over the place, done a whole bunch of things. I was married at the time. He, came with me after I got divorced and was with another woman for 5, 6 years, and he was with me through all of that. And, moved with me up here out of the city and lived with me for over a year at my cabin, um, and then moved into this house here with me, which I think, without getting too, because if I get into details, I'm going to get all misty about it. But there's some takeaways here, and that's really what I want to share with this podcast. Um, my reaction to it wasn't, I think when I look back, I'll be like, "Yep, you did everything fine." I mean, when you're in the middle of it, you always think you're doing things wrong or you could do them better. You notice that you're not who you normally are. You notice that you are doing things you wouldn't normally do in a lot of cases. You notice that you're depressed, and natural human emotion things. Just how it is. For me, the primary issue is my home. Like I told you, he's been a part of every home I've had. There have been a lot of them. I think I've had 8 addresses since Hank found me, and so he was a big part of what home was. The setting might change, the walls are different colors, maybe different people around, but Hank was always there. So coming home, no matter what, was always the first thing I do. Hey, buddy, what's going on? Um, he slept next to my pillow on the bed at night. I mean, animals become a big part of your life. It's just how it is. And there's a purity there. There's a different than people, like when a person dies, I mean, I'm not going to shortchange that tragedy at all because it's awful. But unless they live with you, you want people, you really only see them on holidays or, get-togethers or whatever. They're not in your house with you every day. So your whole definition of home shakes when it's somebody that you live with. And I know from experience that with an animal, it's a very intense pain for a shorter period of time. Like with a person, same reason I quoted earlier, or mentioned earlier, because you only see them on holidays and things like that. A lot of times, my buddy's wife told me this when her father died, that it takes at least a year before it starts to get better because you got to go through every holiday. You got to go through every season, every get together without them and experience it anew. And that's what makes it take so long. That's what she told me. And I thought that was very wise. And I never forgot that. So thanks, Butch, on that one. With an animal, it's a little different. It's a lot more intense, right? Because it's your home. And then, eventually it goes away. But anyway, these are things that I suppose I've known for a long time, but they're worth talking about in case you ever are in a position where you experience some loss, whatever it might be. I think when you experience a loss like that, now I talk a lot about your heart and your mind, and that they must have a great relationship with each other. And just to recap very quickly, your heart is your emotional self or your child, the part of you where the emotions are raw and honest and real. And then your adult self is your cognitive, human adult brain, where you decide what you're going to do about those feelings, right? So, but there has to be and that's sort of your parent, right? The parent that's in you, the voice that you've developed, your conscious self and not your feeling self. And when you experience loss, you're dealing with specifically that your heart is where the damage is. And so, and that heart, it's pretty intense. So it can overflow, and maybe your mind can't do much to control that or to channel it as well as it normally would. And that's, like I talked about earlier, you find yourself doing and acting in ways that you wouldn't normally. And that's because your adult is not as effective in those times. To that end, I think you got to accept that. You got to say, well, this is not one of the times, and this is a great mantra down. This is not one of the times where I need to get ahead. This is a time that I just need to get by. And I don't like that because it feels so unproductive. From a mental conscious perspective, it seems so unproductive to go, I'm not going to do anything to get ahead here. I just have to get time to pass, whatever I have to do to get that to happen. And and here's the key for a lot of men. I'm going to allow myself the comforts that I desire. I'm going to allow myself whatever sort of couching I need, whatever cushions I need to help my emotional self feel better. Because, and it might seem like a waste. I'll talk about that more in a second, but it really isn't, because what you're doing is acknowledging, yep, I'm hurting. Um, and I have to let that hurt come through. Um, you have to get it. You have to hit it head on. You have to go right at it. You have to, everybody says stay busy, do all that stuff, and that's effective for sure. But stay busy doing things that are comforting to you, if you can. Certainly initially, right? And then, and then you can kind of start to move forward and try and get them. So what I did was, and again, if you follow my Instagram, I just, my friends happened to be here, a bunch of my best friends in our annual guys trip when that happened. They helped me through that, and I just absolutely couldn't be more appreciative, especially all of them, really. But Eric and Mike were the guys that happened to be here, came over here with me and physically took care of Hank for me, and so that I didn't have to. The last time I lost a pet, they put him to sleep, and he was in my lap at the time. And let me tell you what, that's like the worst. I think it was the best thing for him. But man, it'll tear your heart out, man. That's a rough thing to deal with. So I thought, well, he was already gone. He was already gone, and I found that out from someone else. And so they came over, and one of them built him a little coffin. One of them dug a hole. We decided where he was going to be, where we were going to put him, and they took care of that part for me. And I would have done it if I had to. But after the experience I had with putting an animal down, sitting in my lap, I'm like, man, he's already gone. So I'm going to spare myself. I'm going to give myself that comfort of allowing two men that I, to the bottom of my heart, trust to take care of that for me. And they were happy to do it. They're good friends for sure. But anyway, once that happened, and we got everything taken care of, and all my buddies went home, man, it didn't feel good. So I got the fuck out, and I got on my motorcycle, and I'm like, I'm going to go to Mount Rushmore, so I started heading west, and had a snafu, and didn't go I thought I was going to go. But I was out away from the house 4 or 5 days, just riding, and took a couple days and spent them at another very close friend's house up in my college town where I went to undergrad, and that was very soothing too and comforting. And the whole time I got this little voice in the back of my head, and I think this maybe is the key takeaway, one of the key takeaways for sure. The voice in the back of my head going, "You should be working. You are burning money on going out to eat and gas in your motorcycle and motel bills, and that's a waste of money." And it isn't. It absolutely is not. Okay, what you're doing is you're allowing time to pass in a very comforting way. Whatever you think that is for you, if you have the ability to do it, even if it just means you're down for a while, maybe you're not spending money, but um, I had the luxury to be able to do that, so I did it. And I know when I look back, I won't regret it. At least I hope I won't. I'm not in a position to look back yet, um, but anyway, you hit the thing head on. You do what you got to do. You do the funeral. Removing items out of the house and all those things that hurt so bad. I think you got to kind of plug your nose and eat Brussels sprouts at that point. Just get through that part. Just get through it, and then you start your mourning process and ultimately your rebuilding process, right? Because that's the key. So, what happened to my notes here? Monitor just shut down. Plug it back in. Oh, there we go. Cool, up and running. So But yeah, so you do that stuff. You do all the things you have to do to get it taken care of, and then now you got to take the pain. Like I told you, you hit it head on. There's this movie I really like called Wind River. Got Jeremy, whatever the heck his name is, the guy who subbed in on the Bourne Supremacy or whatever. Jeremy Renner. It's a movie called Wind River, and it's very briefly a man who you find out a little later his teenage daughter has died in a pretty bad way, and then but the whole score of the movie, the whole plot of the movie, is this other teenage girl who is very similar to his daughter. She dies also in a real sketchy way, and at some point, the Jeremy Renner character is standing there talking to the father of the second girl, and he says this to her. It didn't really make much sense to me at the time, but it does now. He says, cry for her, mourn for her, do not shove this down, feel the pain, feel every inch of it. Because if you don't, you will rob yourself of all of the memories of her, all of the positives, all of the good things that she ever did, all the best things she ever was in your life. You'll rob yourself of that. And I didn't really fully understand that at the time, but I do now, and it's just because I've been focused thinking on this. And this is why that is. If you don't feel the pain, if you don't take that on, and don't take the SSRIs, don't drink yourself to death, don't do all that dumb shit. It works. It'll numb the shit out of you, but you're not taking the pain at that point. I promise you, the pain won't kill you. Okay? I promise you that you can take it. You can make it through, and you will make it through. But if you don't handle that pain, and you shove it down, then this is what will happen. Every time you think of that person, there's still pain associated with it. So now you avoid thinking of them too. You avoid seeing pictures of them. You avoid talking about them. And that's what he meant when he said, you'll rob yourself of the memories. Because those memories still hurt. Because you didn't go through the hurt yet. You got to go through the hurt. You gotta slam into it, hit it head on. And I know that kind of flies in the face of the whole, hey, I didn't bury him myself thing. But, as soon as my friends were gone, I went, and I barely made it to the spot, and I was already on my hands and knees, crying my eyes out. And I knew that was going to come, so I let it come. I went out there specifically for that, so I could apologize to him for not being there when he died, so I could thank him, for being my buddy for so long. And that's what it means. If you don't take the pain, if you don't hit it head on, then that pain will forever be associated with an individual. And now you can't think about him without it hurting. And so you avoid thinking of him. And so that's how you rob yourself of the memories. Like I said, it never made sense to me, but obviously all that time on a motorcycle, I had nothing to do but think. So I put that together. And that's key. So again, seek comfort, and I encourage you to do that with people. That's what works for me. I spend a lot of time on the phone with my mom. That always works pretty well for me. I'll call one of my buddies, or even my dad. He's not the most emotional or sentimental guy, but he gets it. You know what I mean? He knows that stuff like this is hard on you, and it's just nice to hear from him and talk to him. That's certainly comforting at the very least. And that's what you got to do. You got to get out there and find ways to be comfortable. I think it's key. Man, that's a big one too. I think the biggest battle for me, outside of the straight up, missing him, is my inner voice. Especially as a man, you're going to catch this. You're going to have the tendency for your inner voice to go, "You shouldn't be taking this hard. Dude, you should be working forward on. You should be moving forward on this." Like, my inner voice, my adult, can be a dick to me sometimes. It can be hard on me. And I'm talking to my buddy Chris Otto, who I was on the show with them. He saw a post. He sent a post out about how when the chips are down, basically you fall to your lowest level of training, which you hear all the time in like tactical situations. But man, it's so true just in life. When things are going poorly, you're going to slide down to your lowest level of like habit. Um, and like I just got done telling you that in a lot of cases that's okay, just for a while, and then you start working your way out of it. But I noticed that the things that are concerns in my mind anyway became more amplified. Like I tend to beat myself up a little bit for, hey, how come you don't have a family? How come you don't have a good woman in your life? I tend to be on myself about that, and it's pretty easy when you're down to just start really digging in on that shit, and that there is absolutely zero help in that. Like that's gonna do nothing but make it harder for you. So you got to guard that inner voice. You got to, try to keep it as positive as you can. Instead, turn it into, you know, hey, I know, buddy. Think about it like it's like again, you're an adult and you're helping your own little self, your own 8-year-old self through it. You got to imagine that it's your 8-year-old self who lost somebody or something, and you are the adult there coaching them along. Hey, buddy, I know, man, that hurts. I'm so sorry. If I could take it away, I would. I'm so sorry. Get it out, cry it out, whatever you got to do. That's much more productive. Again, with the goal of you got to think of that pain like a zit, right? Like it's this infection, and it really, in a lot of ways, it is. It's like a mind and a heart, or it's like a heart infection, and you've got to get that out of you. You've got to squeeze that out of you, and that's why you'll cry at various intervals. And it's the same reason that when you get done crying, you feel a little better. I consider crying is like, and women know this, right? They're wiser in some ways than men, and they know that crying something out, you feel better. And it might build up. You might need to cry some more later, but then you do, and eventually you get it all out of you. I think about it like throwing up, like it's vomiting, but for your soul, right? So you cry that shit out, and how when you throw up, you feel a little bit better after that. Like, man, I hate barfing. It's like the worst thing ever, and it's been a long time since I've. But I know this, that if I'm so sick I can't sleep, I'm gonna go chuck, and then I'll feel good for a while, long enough to go to sleep. So I'll take advantage of that, and it's the same thing with your emotions, right? Um, yeah, you'll feel better afterwards, and that's a big part of it. So yeah, loss, it sucks, but eventually you remember. Hey, once your emotions finally, you squeeze all that shit out of there, and you're now able to see sort of the things that like stimulate your positive emotions again. You're able to start to see them. Like it was the weirdest moment. So yesterday I'm sitting on my porch, big long front porch on this cool house I built for myself, and I look down and I see these two little white PVC pipes sticking out of the front of the house. And what they are is they're the intake pipes for the wood stove I'm going to install in my living room. I want it to be able to pull in outdoor air so that it's not drawing air from the room, and thus air from between cracks and doors and any gaps in your walls, creating drafts. And I want it to have a good clean source of air to burn so it can make heat more efficiently. Anyway, I'm really proud of that design. I think it's really cool, and I'm pumped for the winter. When it gets cold, I'll be able to fire up that fireplace. Anyway, I caught myself feeling good again. And that's how like situational depression goes. You feel bad for a while, and eventually you come out of it, because it's situational. It's not any kind of like diagnosis or any of that shit. You're sad, and you should be. Like it's totally normal. Congratulations, you're human. But anyway, I see these pipes down there, and I caught myself being pumped about them. Like, cool, I'm coming back. Like it's coming back together. It's I'm remembering that there's this house is awesome. I'm so glad I'm here, and it's everything I did is I'm so proud of everything I did here, and that's starting it's kind of started to come back, and that was a great moment for me. Now I know that, man, I just spent 2 weeks going nuts over an animal of mine. And so, like I said, it's certainly, I have that voice in my head right now going, why is this such a big deal? But it is, and know it, and I'll tell you what it means. It means that you're a good man, all right? You have a big heart and you love people and you love animals. You're capable of loving that deeply that it will hurt you when they go, and how is that ever a bad thing? And if you're in this situation where you're like, wow, Travis is this kind of big, strong guy, and look what this did to him. Fuck that. This is the way I see it right here. Hank gave me nothing but love for 15 years, and it's going to hurt for a month or so. It's a good trade. The pain, it sucks. It definitely does, but I would do it again 100 times, 100 times, because they give you nothing but pure love, and then you're going to have to deal with some pain at the end of it. That's, like I said, that's a pretty good trade. I mean, even if he only lasted 5 or 10 years, if you know me, you know this story about Hank where, and this is 4 years ago. I'm not going to go through the whole story, but I lost him. Like, he disappeared one day, and I did flyers, I did all this stuff, and eventually I found him in a place where I should have never. Man, I got no right to have found him because he was 12 miles away, and essentially what happened, one of my neighbors abducted him, took him away, and left him out in the woods. And I found out, and I went out, and I put his litter box, and I found him. He came back, and I stayed overnight in a tent, and I got him back. And I'm going to consider every moment I had with him after that to be bonus. Because by all rights, he should have been gone at that point. He should have been gone. So I got 4 bonus years with that guy, and that's pretty good. So that's how I see it. Like I said, it's going to want to. You can't let the fear of hurt stop you from loving, because that is the most human thing in the world, and it is, That's why I like working out. It makes everything about being a human better. You want to eat more. Eating's awesome. You sleep better. Sleeping's great. Sex is way better. You want to do it more. You're better at it. You last longer. Also great. Your moods are better. Everything about being a human better is better from working out. And I would tell you exactly the same thing about love. When you find love in your life, no matter where it is, you're a better man at that point. And if you are going to do anything to stop that from coming into your life, you're only hurting yourself. You're cutting off your nose to spite your face, and that's some bullshit, and I would not recommend it. There it is, loss. The shitty thing, man. It's I don't wish it on anyone, but it's going to happen to everyone. So have some tools, have some strategies in place. Know what you want to do. Accept it. Know that it's going to suck, and try to love people, love things anyway. I remember asking, a little side note, man. I can remember. Well, I was going through a bad breakup. I'm like 18 or 19, right? I'm working with this guy who's married to my older cousin. She's probably 10, 12 years older than I am. And he'd been through a divorce already. Now he's with my cousin. And I remember asking him, like, how in the world can you reconcile that you got your whole life fucked up in a divorce, and now you're with another woman who could easily do it to you again? And this guy, Cliff, said to me, man, if she's going to leave, there ain't nothing I can do about it. So I'm not going to worry about it. Nothing I can do. So worrying about it is the biggest waste of time in the world. I'm going to enjoy everything I can. And if that doesn't happen, great. But if it does, I'll enjoy everything I can right up until that moment. Man, that's like the wisest shit ever. And I do the math on that. At the time, my man's not even 30 years old, and he knows that already. And that essentially is what I'm telling you right now. You can't control, And with animals especially, they have you for all of their lives, but you do not have them for all of yours. You got to know that going in and accept it, and then you can love them. Yeah, same thing with people. Anyway, my name's Travis Neville. This is the Travis Neville Podcast. This is my new book, Ideal Man, Mastering Masculinity. It's got concepts like health, accomplishment, preparedness, mastery, love. These are all things you should have in your life. And if you're doing things right, habit-wise, you will have them. You get that book, Anywhere fine books are sold, it's all over Amazon. You can get, I haven't started recording the audiobook yet, but that's coming. You get ebooks, you can get paperbacks. You can go to travisneville.com and get it. You can go to Barnes & Noble. The actual storefronts have them. You can get them at barnesandnoble.com. You can get them anywhere. Again, my name's Travis Neville. I hope in some way that this show helped you to get some shit together. Have a great week.